Okay, so are you ready to really dive deep into Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us?
Hmm.
This book, it's really captivated a lot of people, and we're going to unpack why. Like, what is it about this book that just grabs you? And we're going beyond just, the surface, like just a simple romance.
Yeah, yeah. It's a story that really sticks with you. And what's great is we have these excerpts from Lily's diaries, which, I mean, they're everything.
Right, like those diaries are so important. But before we get into those, maybe we could, like, I don't know, set the stage a little. So we have Lily Bloom. She's new to Boston, just starting out, and she meets Ryle. And he's this neurosurgeon, very charming. And, at first glance, you might think, okay, typical love story, here we go.
Right, right. You
Yeah,
could think that at first, but, this is Colleen Hoover we're talking about. It's always going to be more complicated than that.
exactly. And then that's where Atlas comes in, right? This figure from Lily's past just kind of throws everything we thought we knew into question. I mean, his role is super important. We'll definitely dive into that, but just keep him in the back of your mind for now, okay? Just know that he adds this whole other layer to Lily's story.
And those diary entries, that's how we really get to unpack all of that. It's so fascinating because they're written as letters to Ellen DeGeneres of all people. Imagine reading someone's diary, but it's like addressed to Ellen. We're right there in Lily's head, hearing all her thoughts, her dreams, even as a teenager.
Oh, totally. It's like a direct line to everything she's
Yeah.
feeling, right? We get to see it all, her insecurities, her hopes, and even her relationship with her dad, which, let's be honest, is complicated to say the least.
And that's the thing, that relationship with her father. It's like a key to understanding everything else the book is trying to tell us about unhealthy relationships, the patterns that repeat. And it's subtle. Hoover doesn't hit you over the head with it, but Lily's younger years, they plant the seeds for these bigger questions about the relationships we build later in life.
It really gets you thinking how much of how we love is shaped by what we've seen and experienced before.
Exactly, exactly. And speaking of experiences that shape us, that first meeting between Lily and Ryle, it's not your typical how they met story, is it? Picture this. You're on a rooftop trying to cope after your father's funeral, and suddenly, boom, you meet someone like Ryle.
Talk about an intense situation. You're vulnerable, grieving, and then on top of that, this instant attraction hits you.
And here's the thing, remember, at first, Ryle's all, oh, I don't do relationships. So you have to wonder, what is this connection really about? Is it real? Or is it just circumstance? Maybe they were both just trying to outrun something, bury their pasts.
Right. It's like Colleen Hoover takes those classic romance tropes, those expectations we all come in with, and she just flips them completely. But as we get deeper into their story, the cracks start to show. Ryle might seem perfect at first, but he's got his secrets. And I think this is where the diaries become even more important, don't you? They help us understand why Lily might be drawn to someone like him, even when there are these red flags popping up.
Yes, and those diaries, they reveal something else too, something that changes everything. What Lily's parents' relationship was really like, and, well, let's just say it wasn't healthy. It adds this whole layer of, I don't know, like a dose of reality to the story, wouldn't you say?
Totally, yeah. It makes you confront those hard questions about abuse, about how those patterns can repeat themselves. It can be painful to read at times, definitely, but it's powerful and it's honest, and that's something It Ends With Us does so well. It doesn't shy away from the hard stuff.
Exactly. And as we go further, we see those parallels between Lily's parents and what's happening with Ryle. They become more and more obvious.
It's like you can't escape the past, can you? Like, are we really just going to end up repeating the same mistakes as our parents, or can we actually break free?
Yeah, and that's the core of it all, isn't it? And Hoover, she doesn't give us easy answers, which I appreciate. She gives us these characters and these situations that are so complex, so real, and she just lets us figure it out with them. It's like she uses those parallels between Lily's parents and Lily and Ryle, not to say this is going to be exactly the same, but to show us how abuse works, how it creeps in, how those patterns just, they keep happening unless something changes.
It's unsettling. Really gets under your skin. And then as we go on, Ryle, his behavior, it just gets harder and harder to ignore, like those moments when he gets jealous or tries to control what Lily's doing. It's subtle at first, but then remember when he finds Atlas's number,
Yeah.
he just smashes her phone.
Oh, yeah, I was going to bring that up. Those moments are so important because it's like, that's abuse, plain and simple.
Yeah.
And it usually starts small, right? So it's even harder to see coming. And the reader, we're going through it too. We're falling for Ryle just like Lily is. And then, bam, he does something awful. And it's like this punch to the gut.
Right. The whole time you're reading, it's like this constant back and forth. Like, oh, they're so good together. But wait, this uneasiness just
Yeah.
creeps in,
Right.
And right when Lily's trying to deal with all of this, guess who comes back?
Atlas. Talk about timing, right. And he's like this breath of fresh air for Lily, this whole different energy compared to all the drama with Ryle. Remember those early diary entries? When Lily was going through it, and Atlas was the one person she could count on.
Totally. He represents that stability for her, that real connection. And they have this shared history that's completely separate from all the baggage with Ryle. I don't know about you, but I was thinking, man, what if Atlas had always been around? Would things be different?
It's a good question. But instead of going down that road, Hoover brings us back to Lily. I mean, she is in turmoil, trying to make sense of her feelings for Ryle while also seeing all these red flags, and then there's Atlas back in the picture.
It's just such a mess. That's what makes it feel
Well-
real, Because relationships are messy, especially when you're dealing with abuse. It's never simple, and Colleen Hoover, she captures that so well. The confusion, the fear, that feeling of being trapped.
Absolutely. And it's not like Lily figures it out right away. There are times when she tries to explain away Ryle's behavior, make excuses for him. And it's heartbreaking because you just want to reach through the pages and tell her, get out. But we've all been there, haven't we? Wanting to believe the best in someone, even when they're hurting us.
Yeah, it's human nature, I guess. We all want that fairy tale ending.
Yeah.
But the important thing is, Lily does eventually find the strength to leave.
She does. And it's not easy. It's painful. But she chooses herself. And she chooses her baby. And that's huge.
It's such a powerful reminder that we don't have to let other people define us or trap us. We can choose a different path, even if it's hard. And I like how Hoover shows that support system around Lily, too. Like Alyssa, her best friend, she never gives up on her. And even her mom, even though their own relationship is complicated, it really shows you how important it is, to have people who believe in you, especially when you start doubting yourself. And even though the excerpts we have, they kind of stop before the very end, we do get to see Lily and Atlas reconnect. And it's, well, I don't know about you, but it gave me chills. It's not a big dramatic thing, but there's this feeling, like unspoken, you could just tell they get each other.
It's like they've both been through so much, They've got their own baggage, their own scars. But somehow being together, it's like they finally understand each other in a way no one else can. And even without knowing exactly how the book ends, you just get this sense that they'll be okay, that it's possible to heal, to find happiness, even after everything they've been through.
It's like this powerful reminder that even when things are really tough, there's always hope. Right? Like, you don't have to let the bad stuff be the end of your story. You can find love, find happiness, and break those cycles of hurt. And I think that's what makes It Ends With Us so amazing. It's not just a romance. It's about so much more, about survival and finding yourself and never giving up on the good.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It reminds us that there's always more to the story. Like pain isn't the end. You can grow, you can change, you can find your way to something better.
It stays with you, that's for sure. It makes you think. So we've talked about Lily's journey, the impossible choices she had to make, and how messy love and forgiveness can be, especially when you're dealing with something like abuse. But I want to hear from you. What about you? What do you think? If you were Lily, what kind of love would you fight for? When would you draw the line and say, enough, I choose me?